I'm your Z-Man, Zoltai. Hello, and welcome to another edition of One Man Show here on Cox Communications. Normally every Monday night I bring you sports-related subject matter. Tonight, though, I thought I'd take a bit of an off-ramp from the norm and take a look inside the world of model railroading. That's always been a favorite subject of mine, and I think for many of you there at home. In and around the Cox viewing area, there's all sorts of model railroading clubs that you can participate in and find out information on. But tonight, I'm going to focus on the one that calls the Strongsville Historical Society home. Sit back and enjoy model railroading at its best on One Man Show. Let's strike this locomotive off. Good evening and welcome to One Man Show on Cox Communications. I'm your host, as always, Z Zoltai. Tonight we're speaking with members of the Strongsville Society of Model Railroading Engineers. On my right here, what would any model railroading set or association be without a guy that knows the electricity? He's the electrical superintendent and treasurer of the association, Rich Tressa. Rich, what are some of the objectives you and everyone in the association have for the society here in Strongsville?
One of the reasons for having a railroad, both in the United States and other countries, is to provide transportation and to provide a means to move things and people from one location to another quickly and efficiently. The railroad systems have done this. What we've done here is to replicate and try to promote and show how these trains have helped move cargo, passengers, and livestock of various natures to different places in the United States. As immigrants came into this country, their quickest method of movement was railroads to the west, always expanding.
As far as the membership here in the Society of Model Railroading Engineers in Strongsville, not everybody's from Strongsville. Tell us who some of the members are and what communities in the surrounding areas that they hail from.
Yeah, we have members from various communities the surrounding here, this area. Middleburg Heights, we have members from Cleveland, we have members from Brunswick, we have members from North Royalton, from Berea. They compose
Parma and Olmsted Falls?
Parma and Olmsted Falls also.
That's a good question. Hollered in from the background there. Anybody from Brook Park?
Yes, there is somebody from Brook Park.
Who would that be?
The member from Brook Park, not quite sure which one it is. I spotted Bob Stock.
There we go.
What's the mountain doing?
Where's that mountain at? Where's that mountain?
Mountain generally come across the front of the
Okay.
Well, it's dead down there.
Jay, did you order
He's going to take pictures up here for me.
And this one?
Yep, he's taking pictures up here. We'll let him go out, and then I'll go ahead and pull that Erie right out after him. He's coming. There it is. Great. Let that passenger go through. Yeah, there you go. Yeah, he's cool.
think we got that contact somewhere. In that drawbar. Because right now you're on mountain top. You're on mountain top. Check your drawbar first.
No, that has nothing to do with it. Oh, that, you just comparing the diesel with this. Oh, okay, forget it. We got power. We got power. I didn't say, I didn't.
Well, we're watching a lot of small trains. There's a very big train now passing behind me now on One Man Show. A special edition here on Cox Communications, model railroading at its best, and a group that calls the Strongsville Historical Society its home. We're not watching trains quite this big, but we're watching trains that are just as much fun. Well, what would any train setup or railroad modeling be like if you didn't have realistic trees to go with those great-looking clouds and realistic buildings? Jim Tupper is just that here. He's the tree man. Why are you known as the tree man, and how did you end up with this job as the landscape expert?
Well, I don't really know how I got it. I didn't have the talent to start with, but after working at it for a few months, it sort of came naturally to me. I knew how a tree was shaped. I knew how rocks were shaped, and it just evolved out of me without any effort at all. And the important part is you have to enjoy doing what you're doing. If you're not having fun, it's a chore, so you don't really have your heart in it. And I definitely have my heart in it.
Well, you've got a whole variety of things out in front of us. Shauna, see if you can get a close-up here of some of the trees that Jim has, that he's working on here. You're watching One Man Show on Cox Communications. Part of our show this evening is dealing with model railroading. You'll want to get in close here. So I see you've got a can here of repositionable adhesive. I guess that means it doesn't dry quickly. It allows you to tweak it a little bit before it sets up, correct?
Makes your fingers stick together.
So do you spray the goldenrod and then roll it around in the green flake material over here?
Not quite. We'll take this and tweak these flowers off until we come up with something like this. Then we'll clip it and give it some type of a tree shape, depending on what tree you're after.
We'll get a close-up of this here.
Okay. Now.
Wow, you trimmed that right back to just about nothing.
Yep. Now what I need to do is I have to get over this to spray this
All right.
adhesive on.
And all Jim's doing now is spraying that over the garbage can so it doesn't get on the floor and on our shoes and make a mess. Now, the repositionable adhesive is on the goldenrod that he picked the fluffy stuff off, and he's got a can here now with the green tree-like dust material. So let's get a close-up of this as he sprinkles
okay if I
this.
hold this up here like
Just
that?
like that's perfect, Jim.
Okay, now you said I'd just throw it in the bucket, but no, you want to be careful to position your foliage on there just on the branches without getting it all over the trunk.
You do that really well.
No, thanks.
And Jim's just putting a light sprinkling of the flocking on the individual branches, and it looks like a tree straight from the state of Florida.
Now, it's not quite done.
All right.
Let me put the finishing touches on. I'll spray a little more on here.
A second coat. Now, where do you get the green flock material again? Any craft center would have something like that? Yes?
Yes. Now, this is a little heavier, what we call a medium grade flock that we'll sprinkle on here, and it'll sort of fill up the branches a little fuller to give the tree a little fuller look. Now, if we need to, we can even go to even a bigger piece to fill up I want to show you this because it really finishes it off. This is what we call clumping, and we take a piece of this and put it in here in a hollow spot to fill in where it might need. Whoops, that fell out.
And it gives the tree its full-bodied effect here at this
Right.
point, right? Okay.
Right. And there you got a nice tree. Now the only thing left to do is to paint the trunk, cut it off, and plant it.
Jim Tupper, tree expert, landscaper extraordinaire when it comes to model railroading. Thank you, Jim.
You're welcome. It's my pleasure.
There's 64 cars there, you know, little rock cars. Those were a nightmare to put together, see?
So we're looking at 64 cars here on the Mesabi Range train.
Right. It's dying. Yeah, with that control.
Well, how are you enjoying the show so far tonight? A special feature here on One Man Show, model railroading. I know, normally we talk about sports and sports-related material. However, tonight we're bringing you a special segment, model railroading, and the model railroaders that call the Strongsville Historical Society home. There's plenty more of model trains, mountains, bridges, and trestles as One Man Show continues here on Cox Communications.
Anywhere where there's a power pack, that loop over
You want
there.
a cup of coffee or pop or something?
Set up a room.
Now behind your left elbow's coming Erie train now. He edits it out. He's gonna edit this out. He's gonna interview you and you tell him why you're...
On my right now is John Von Duhn, and John's kind of the Erie Lackawanna and Erie Locomotives and Equipment Specialist here. I see you've brought a couple of trains here today. We've got the passenger train moving in front of us here. Tell us a little bit about that.
Right now, that's an Erie Alco PA, which stands for Passenger Alco, the P and the A.
Neat.
And it's steam generated. All the cars are heated by steam in the real world, that is. And also, the model manufacturer is Lifelike Proto 2000, and they're real, well-detailed, smooth-running engines nowadays that, as far as you can get, they're just about the best engines you can find. There's a number of different manufacturers that are around, Atlas and Cato, that make some real fine-running stuff. But as far as more bang for your buck, yeah, the lifelike Proto 2000s are real nice running engines.
Let's sidebar on that for a minute. There aren't too many models, if any, still made in the United States, is there? And who makes the best models, and where do a lot of them come from nowadays?
I'd say most of them come from overseas, in China, Japan. Kato is one of the biggest manufacturers of fine-running locomotives. You just give them a tiny touch on the throttle and they're gone. And the headlights are nice and bright, which is an issue to us model railroaders. We like nice bright headlights, fine details.
I never knew that, yeah?
Yes, when that's kind of important to us. Some guys like to have their engines nice and pristine. Me, I like to dirty my engines up a little bit by weathering them, making they look like they've run on the road a little bit. And so.
Hey, there was another good item here. I'll get off this stool here for a second. The club itself actually has its own car you were telling me about. I think you have this over here to the side. We'll get up close here, and we'll also get a tight shot on this. Is this a mail car here that we have?
Yeah, a baggage car. We've taken a whole passenger train and custom painted it, decaled it in the SSMRE logo. This is our colors, our club colors, red and yellow. The SSMRE is obviously Strongsville Society of Model Railroad Engineers, which is also on the building right here. It took us, not too long once we got the gumption going in us. It was only a couple weeks until we had this train nice and painted. We've got about 6 or 7 cars that go along with it, complete from the baggage cars all the way to the tail end observation cars that you see on a lot of the classic trains from years ago. So. And they're beautiful runners. I'm pretty sure fellow member Leon Lavdis is who painted up these. He used a fine airbrush and a real nice decaling method. He individually laid down all the letters, and he masked off the car and painted the yellow and put another mask and painted the red and then decaled it up and did a really nice job of it. Sealed it up very good, and we're really happy to run these around. They kind of tie in the club with the rest of the buildings that go on around.
Good item. We talk about good items, and so far in the show we've seen a lot of beautiful trains here, wonderful layout. But the thing that I think impressed me the most is that each of you, when you come down here once or twice a week, you bring your trains and all of your stuff with you, but then when you go at the end of the day, you take it back home. That seems like a lot of work, but to you it probably isn't, is it?
No, it's what you would call a labor of love. We have a lot of money invested in these trains. Some of the engines run from $25 to $250, $300, $400. We have a steam engine right in front of us right here that's got sound, the bells in it, every little thing that you want, even the squealing brakes if you want to hear it. And that's a very expensive engine. Runs about $250, $300, maybe even more than that.
So the brakes actually squeal like a train, yeah?
As it's coming to a stop, a little digital signal sends it and tells it to do the squealing noise, and sure enough, it comes to a stop. We can get the bell to work.
The locomotive in front of us is a New York Central, which has a sound unit in the tender, and by using the reversing switches you can activate different sounds on the locomotive. You hear the whistle now. It also makes brake sounds, bell sounds, and a number of other sounds as you operate the controller to activate them. The train is in the yard now. There's 2 mainline tracks going through the yard, the water as we call it, and the mountain. And there are tracks 101 through 108 in the yard to hold the cars as we maneuver the cars through the yard, making up consists to traverse the layout east and west.
So that we have this power pack. It's wireless from anywhere in the layout in the whole basement here. We can get trains going just by pressing the buttons. We have an emergency stop button that shuts things down in an instant. We'll power things back up. We have a lot of communication around the layout. If one train is coming up on the rear end of another, we can call out to the different people that are stationed around the layout that, hey, we've got something going on, and it ends up being almost operated like a real railroad with train masters and yard masters and things like that, and we really enjoy it. The power packs, the wireless, give us the freedom to go anywhere, operate our trains, switch cars in and out, do whatever we might need to do. And it's thoroughly enjoyable. We have a blast with it. I hold my hand here, Z. Some of the plastic rail joiners that we use to separate the electricity on the layout. As I said before, the metal ones make things nice and continuous. These plastic ones help us separate the electrical connections between the different tracks that we have. We can turn tracks on and off by using these insulated rail joiners. They make things a whole lot more convenient as far as operating and having a number of engines on the layout. We're able to keep things nice and smooth. The plastic rail joiners that we have are at the end of almost every single track where you see a switch, where you see two tracks coming together, and also along big long stretches of straight track we have different isolated blocks with these rail joiners.
I'm now with Louise Tupper. I won't say Mrs. Tupper because I was told not to. Now, Louise, though, you've worked a lot with a lot of the scenery, the clouds, and the landscapes here on the trains, particularly this farm behind us. Tell our viewers a little bit about the farm and the work that was involved in putting it together.
Well, in the first place, it was so hard to work back there, and it pretty well killed my back. So we made that a lift out. We actually built the farm at home.
Neat.
And measured the styrofoam base, and so it was cut. So all we had to do after we got it the way we wanted it was to drop it in. And then I painted the background so that your eye would carry in the distance, and the farm like continues on in the scenery behind it. So instead of just having the farm and that's the end, and then you see wall. With a lot of this, we just try to give this illusion of distance, this continuation. He did this, and the shine there is really bathtub caulking, and it gives it the illusion of wet water, although it's really...
Well, why didn't you say that? It looks like water. Just let them think it's water.
It looks like water, yeah.
It is
But
water.
that's
not an illusion. Riverbed here is a good example of how railroaders have to sort out their ideas, put them together, and come up with a solution. We belong to many different organizations through our lifetime, and being part of this railroad club is really a challenge in one respect, but it's very rewarding. You know, we have about 22 members at the moment in the club, and you get 22 different ideas as to how something wants to be done. And we have some pretty heated discussions. And but after it sort of soaks in our mind for a week or so, we most always come out with a very satisfactory solution, and it always works out well. And this riverbed is an excellent example. At one time it was planned to have a dual track running just below this mainline track, and I thought that it would be appropriate that we have a waterway adjacent to the track. As you mentioned a moment ago, that this is many times the way the track was laid. It was along the riverbeds. And finally I prevailed, and I did get my way, so to speak, and we built the river, and it's turned out really well, and the guys really like it a lot. And this is the way we solve a lot of our problems. We'll discuss them and resolve them, and it makes it that much more rewarding that you've accomplished something by agreements among the fellas. It's a super hobby to be involved in, and it gives us a chance to be kids again.
Well, just a little bit more of our show left. We've seen switches and bridges and trestles and houses and clouds, and everybody that I think works so hard on bringing model railroading to its fullest extent. It's a hobby that's very rewarding for so many. Tonight we're focusing on the model railroaders that call the Strongsville Historical Society home here on One Man Show. You're watching Cox Communications. Let's get back to the last 10 minutes.
How close are you, Joe? I'm way down the bottom. Yeah. Okay. You can go right behind me. Should I go up behind him? Right behind him. There you go. Good shot.
You know, there's all kinds of gauges, Mike, with model railroading. You have the S gauge, you have the HO gauge, you have N gauge, which probably that's not for you guys, the N gauge, is it?
Well, I collect a little bit of everything, but HO is my favorite. It's probably, it is the most popular. Probably about 80% of it is HO. There's also S gauge, O gauge. You have your Lionel and American Flyer that we all know is receiving gifts at Christmas time for kids.
Now, is that the old 3-rail? And is that the O gauge?
That's Lionel. O gauge is, or O scale, if you will. They are both the same size, but there's 2-rail O gauge, and then there's the high rail, what they call the Lionel 3-rail.
And what's the newest gauge that just came out?
Oh, newest? I suppose N gauge is the newest, 1 to 87. There's also TT and Z gauge that is very small. But if you live in an apartment, you want N gauge. If you have a house or a basement that's available, you want HO or something bigger in most cases, but not always.
Thanks, Mike. And the show wouldn't be complete unless I had it. Well, cameraman's dying there, so we're going to have to wrap up. But no show would be complete if yours truly couldn't actually start one of these trains. So let's pan over here. We'll get the cameraman water before we're done here. And do I have a license? Wait a minute. Do I need a license? What kind of license? Do I need a fireman's license?
Engineer's a license. We'll certify you right quick.
All right. Here we go. Let's count it down on one-man show. 3, right here. 2, 1, and... Oh, I didn't get it to fire. There we go. It's moving. Let's see if we get this going again. And it's off. That's not too bad. Well, what do you know? We're out of time here on One Man Show. I hope you've enjoyed this special edition brought to you on Cox Communications, Model Railroading. Each and every Monday night at 7:30, I try to bring you the best and the most interesting in sports topics here on my show. I'm your host, Z Zoltai, your Z-Man. Until next week, so long, everybody. And the model railroaders that call the Strongsville historical, and the model railroaders that call the Strongsville, boy, come on, Z.
We take things home, and
okay, we'll do that again.
we got this little...
Yeah, here, we'll stop the tape for a minute, and when we come back, when we